This is going to be your best
Listen.
podcast ever.
Epicurean. But OFC and pink lemonade's pretty damn good. It'll put your boat in the marsh. Jesus did not die so you could eat yellow number 5. Excitable.
The nose starts off gentle with noticeable scents of grain that takes shape in the form of fresh baked bread.
Ma'am, you're in the wrong podcast. Educated-ish. I have used the term overproof for so long without really knowing what it
constitutes.
Because for
Is
me,
there a definition officially?
welcome to Bitches and Bourbon.
Hello, Reba. How are you doing, my darling?
I am good. How are you?
Are you sure you're good?
I'm good.
I don't know. You look kind of suspect when you walked in here and saw the Scotches lined up on the bar.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I'm good and not great.
Oh. Okay, so
No, I already know that there's at least one that I don't mind consuming, so I'll be okay.
So I will tell you in my defense. So I know that Reba doesn't particularly care for Scotch. I realize that. And typically before we get together and record, we've talked about the bottle that we are going to do. Moreover, we went through a list of upcoming bottles the other night, none of which these are on the list. But I will tell you what happened. So
What had happened was
what had happened was there's a method to my madness, right?
All right. I'm here to entertain.
It was not just let's fuck with Reba. I promise. It wasn't. Promise.
No,
Promise.
I know.
Okay.
Didn't take it as such.
So, do you remember when we were doing the New Year's Eve episode and we were talking about like all of the reference material we had and how we used like hardly none of it last year?
Yes.
Except for the one, and I said that we really probably should implement those things this year because I thought that it would be a lot of fun because I really like going through these books and stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Let's have a reason to
correct.
focus on them.
So, I decided to pick up the Drinking with the Saints book that I had, right? Oops. That was one of the books. So this book is called Drinking with the Saints, The Sinner's Guide to a Holy Happy Hour by Michael P. Foley.
Holy happy hour. I like the sound of that.
Funny, real quick story, as a matter of fact, during this Christmas season, one of the parishes here had a holy hour, happy hour, and it caused a little bit of discussion on the
I
Facebook
can
page.
imagine.
But it shouldn't.
No.
It shouldn't. This is a thing that we as Catholics have never really had a problem with.
Right.
So, but it was. I thought it was very interesting and what a fun way to get people involved in the Christmas season. So
Yeah.
whatever.
I'd be very interested to hear how the turnout was.
Incidentally, today in the liturgical year is the 11th day of Christmas. I don't remember what the fuck that is in the song, but it is the 11th day of Christmas. So I went ahead and I picked up the little Drinking with the Saints because it has
piping?
It has, I don't know. I have no idea.
Now you're going to have me sitting here.
I have no idea.
Trying to go through the song.
But January 4th, which is today, right? So the saint for today that we're supposed to drink with is Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Okay. Tell me more.
She is my confirmation saint.
Oh.
She is the saint that I picked at confirmation.
How many years ago?
9, I think now. 12?
Well, what a coinkydink.
I know. That's what I said, right? That's what I said. Wow, isn't this a coincidence? This is my confirmation saint. And when I picked her because she felt so familiar to me. She was American. She was a wife. She converted in adulthood, and then she had to listen to a little bit of shit about converting. Now, I didn't convert in adulthood. I was baptized Catholic as a child, but I didn't become a practicing Catholic until my adulthood. So I'd been baptized, but I'd not gone through First Communion and confirmation and those things. So, but then she tried to start a school for girls, but when they found out she was Catholic, all the parents pulled their kids out of her school, right? So then she started another school just for poor kids in general in Baltimore,
Yeah.
and effectively created the Catholic school parochial system. So it's like I really kind of liked her. Right?
Yeah.
So
Getting to the Scotch, I'm guessing.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So her drink for today, right? Because she and her husband and their families were all British loyalists.
Okay.
And so her drink for today is something called the Benedict Arnold,
Okay. All right.
which is some kind of Benedictine liquor and scotch.
All right.
And I was like, well, holy hell.
There we go.
No pun. That was a terrible pun that I didn't even mean. But I was like, Scotch? I love Scotch. Elizabeth Ann Seton, St. Elizabeth is my saint. And we're always talking about when we're just doing like daily drinkers or whatever, like which bottle should we go to because maybe it's a bottle we want to record on, maybe it's not. But we're also talking about how the bar is getting overfull.
Yes.
Well, my last semester of college is fixing to start. So I figured if we just went ahead and knocked all 9 varieties of scotches that I currently have on the bar out in one episode, they all become available to me to get me through to graduation.
Love the game plan.
Right?
I'm on board.
Okay, so
I'm on board.
So I'm forgiven.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I mean, you were forgiven before that, but yeah.
So there was a method. That was the method to the madness.
I appreciate it.
There you go. All right, great. So, Bitches in Bourbon Universe, welcome to our Scotch episode. And as you all know, I love Scotch. It's my favorite. I currently have 9 different varieties. No 2, interestingly enough, I don't think. No, that's not true. 3 of them. 3 are the same, and we'll get to how they're the same.
I do kind of wish we still had the Tale of Winter. That was especially for a day like today where it's kind of blah.
You and me both, sister. That was
delicious.
That was a great bottle. What we're going to kick it off right now is we've decided that we are going to discuss the different types of scotches, just so we can kind of encompass everything that we have going on. So the first 2 scotches that we have up today, Reba has in her glass the Glenmorangie single malt.
Yes.
It is a Highland Scotch. And you've had that one before, yes?
I don't think I've had this one.
Okay, not that one.
Mm-mm.
Okay, just the Tale of Winter.
Yes.
Okay. And I also went ahead and opened one that I have been thinking about opening forever
Yes.
that I've had on the bar. It is the Smokehead single malt Islay Scotch. Islay is my favorite Scotch region, and we'll get into what all that means right after we cheers.
Cheers.
I should have opened that so much sooner.
Everything you hoped for?
It's everything I would like it to be. Everything I would like to be. Now, I will tell you, if you are not a Scotch fan or if you're new to Scotch, I wouldn't hit the Smokehead first.
I just want to smell it. I don't want to taste it. I just want to smell it.
That Smokehead, it is, yeah.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes. It is, I would guess, if I had to guess, it's probably a slightly younger Scotch. It's very, very smoky, as the name would imply, and it's got quite the little front punch. Oh, I know what you're looking for. It's only 86 proof.
No, I was actually just seeing if there was an age date on it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't see anything about that.
No, I didn't see it, which is fine. But it is warm. Like if you're cold, it'll thaw you right out. It is currently right around my sternum, building its little peat fire.
You can have all of the peat fire.
And it's lovely. So how about that Glenmorangie?
I like that it's smooth. It does not, it's not dirt in my face.
No, and it won't be. And so that's one of the
Yeah.
things that we were going to kind of talk about with the Scotches this evening.
Even smelling it, it's not overly Scotchy smell.
No, and it wouldn't be. So Scotches are typically, first of all, to be a Scotch, there are a couple of things that it has to be just to have the name Scotch on its label. And as it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, Scotch is a whiskey. We've kind of gone through that before. My favorite way to describe it is rectangles and squares. Like all squares are rectangles because they have all the properties of rectangles, but they have added properties that make them a square. So all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. It is the same way with whiskey. All Scotches are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are Scotches.
And do all Scotches spell whiskey with a Y, or are they allowed to use EY?
They
I'm
are
looking at the bottles.
Yeah, it's all the
Just
whiskey.
preference.
Yeah, the whiskey
Okay.
with the EY, the whiskey with the Y has become pretty much just arbitrary at this
Okay.
point. The origin of that is anything from Ireland or the United States would have the EY, and everywhere else is just the Y, but they can really do it
however they want.
however they want to.
So I was just looking at the bottles that we currently have, and at least the ones that I've seen so far, all of them have just the Y. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
especially if they have the option.
They do, but Scotch has typically been just Y, and I think I've heard the story both ways, depending on if you prefer the Irish or the Scots. That one of them spelled it their way first,
Yeah.
and then the other one took out or added the E to
Yeah.
differentiate between the two. But now, who did that first? I don't know,
doesn't
and
matter.
I'm betting nobody else does either. Now, you can pretty much tell if people prefer Irish whiskey or Scotch based on which story they tell.
Yeah.
But I think it's all arbitrary at this point. But in order to be a Scotch, it has to be made of grain and water, right? Mashed, fermented, and distilled in Scotland. Now, the grain does not have to come from Scotland. The grain can come from anywhere, but it
But
has
the
to be
process.
correct.
Okay.
Fermented using only enzymes that form naturally inside the malted barley. Distilled to no higher than 94.8% alcohol. Must be aged only in Scotland for at least 3 years in oak casks no larger than 185 U.S. gallons.
That's pretty specific.
Must contain no additives other than water and caramel coloring. I'll get back to that in just a second.
Okay.
Must be bottled at a minimum of 40% alcohol, and it must taste like a whiskey. Like, it can't be a whiskey and you do something to it to where it tastes like, smells like, acts like something that totally isn't a whiskey.
Okay.
So you'll notice a lot of those sound a lot like bourbon.
Yes.
A lot of those rules are kind of the same.
Yes.
The one that's probably the most different right off the top, the most noticeable difference is they can add caramel.
Yes.
And the theory is Scotch, when it was originally produced, and even still now, when they age their Scotch, they age it in used barrels. They don't, where bourbon uses new oak charred barrels. Scotch,
They're not required to be new.
I think most Scotches aren't new.
Okay.
So now what happens is when you're aging the Scotch in used barrels, that color that the alcohol typically pulls from the barrel itself has pretty much been pulled. So like the color is typically the color, it's hard to get the color.
It's going to look more clear.
And inconsistent was the word I was looking
Okay.
for. But you can add caramel to it, and that's just kind of for a little bit of color, a little bit of whatever. So that's probably one of the biggest.
Does it change the flavor?
I'm sure it
profile?
does a little, but probably not enough to matter, especially if you're already kind of changing that flavor profile because the barrel was used to begin with.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Now, they come in different varieties, and you hear things like that all the time, like, do you prefer single malt? And
Yes.
I've said it 100 times. I don't give a shit. I don't care if it's single malt. I don't
Right.
care. But a lot of people do.
Pour to my glass.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, the Blue Label Johnny Walker is a blended.
Yes.
Is a blended Scotch, right? So, like, whatever. And I think that's a
As
beautiful
is
bottle.
the Jane.
I love that.
Yeah.
But single malt simply means that it must be made entirely from a malted barley and distilled at a single distillery using a pot still. That's what single malt means.
Okay.
So Scotch comes in single malt variety, single grain variety, because you don't have to use malt. It's not a requirement, but it has to be a single grain. They have blended malt, where that's a combination of single malts, where you take one or more single malts and you put them together. Blended grain and then blended whiskey, which is a combination of all of it, right?
Okay.
Blended grain, blended malt, like all of that. It's just
Do we currently
it's a
have
blend.
any that are not malt?
We do, as a matter
I
of
know
fact.
we have a blend.
The James Buchanan 18 is a blend.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep, the James Buchanan is a blend. The Teachers that we have is a blend. And then the rest of that, the Jane Walker is a blended malt. And then the rest are all single malts. The blended whiskey, that's going to be the one that's most common.
Yeah.
And then the blended malt is next. And then your blended grain is virtually non-existent. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but... So when you hear people talk about scotches that way, that's what they're referring to. There's also another way scotches break down, and scotches split in 6 different regions, and these are actually geographical regions.
Wow.
And the regions have kind of developed their own personal characteristics, if you will. So the Islay, which is my favorite,
Yes.
that one is going to be the ones that are more peaty, heavier smoke, like that's going to be like your Lafrogue, those types of ones.
The ones that I'm going to like the least.
The ones that you are gonna like the least. But like
Yes.
Lafrogue is an example. The Smokehead that we have, the Lagavulin, the 8 that we
Yes.
have, and the Kilchoman are all going to be Islay scotches.
Okay.
What you have, and then there's the islands, and that has a lot of the Islay type characteristics too. So there's 2 of them.
Okay.
Campbelltown we do not have, and it feels that they say it's kind of salty. I've never had one. I've never had one.
Salty.
Then you have the lowlands, which is going to be lighter, floral, typically uses unpeated malt, and we'll get into what that means in a little while too. But the ones you typically like are going to be the Speyside and the Highlands. And you like the Highlands best, and that's what you have in your hand right now. That Glenmorangie is a Highland. Floral, sometimes a little bit of spice to it. And that
What is
one,
the Glenlivet?
the Glenlivet is a Speyside. And the
Okay.
Speyside's going to be rich, fruity. And all of this comes from, I am remiss to tell you all, that that was another reason. I completely forgot that reason in my story. So when I was like, oh, Scotch, because of St. Elizabeth, and then I picked up my new Scotch book that I have,
Yes.
that is Scotch, A Complete Introduction to Scotland's Whiskies, written by Margaret Waterbury. And I was like, that's cool. It's a chick. And I love that. She is an author, a journalist, a copyright. And I thought that was very cool. She's got a great little story here in the beginning of her book about how she fell in love with whiskey. And it's the story that you hear just most often. You're traveling somewhere, you're in some little bar somewhere, and you just happen to have a great introduction to somebody, and it just creates a warm experience, and that warm experience attaches itself to your brain with this drink that you just had, and there's your love of community and
Nice.
humanity and connection over some particular libation. And for her, it just happened to be a Scotch in Scotland,
Wow.
which I don't know that it gets any better than that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? So those are going to be your 6 different regions: the Lowlands, Speyside, the Highlands, Islay, Campbelltown, or I might not even be saying that one right, because honestly, that's one that I'm not very familiar with. And then the islands. The islands. We have one of those. That's the Highland Park.
Okay.
We have. I don't even know how to organize all of this mess that we have. There's so much. So the nine bottles that we currently have out for our perusal this evening is the Glenlivet 25,
Yes.
the Glenmorangie 10, the Highland Park 18, the James Buchanan 18, the Jane Walker, the Kilchoman, which I don't know if you can even get that one anymore because it was remember
Bottle
that
release.
podcast? Yeah, no, remember that podcast I told you about that I love, Cask Chasers?
Yeah.
It was their pick. Like that barrel was pulled especially for them. So that's their bottle.
So limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I think even on the bottle it says or on the box it says bottle of bottle. So I guess the story goes that the guys are friends with some guy from Kilchoman, and he's came upon a 3-year-old barrel that he just thought was one of the best scotches he's ever had. Him and the Cask Chasers got together, pulled it, through a partnership with Kilchoman, and there you go. Now you have a Cask Chasers Kilchoman bottle. As soon as I heard them talk about it, I literally saw them talk about it. I think it was their Instagram Live when I saw them talk about it. I immediately went online and ordered one.
That's cool.
I was so afraid they were going to sell out.
On the nose.
Oh, we'll get there. So there's that one, the Lagavulin 8, the Smokehead, and then the Teacher's Cream. So those are the 9 that we currently have to peruse. And so I'm just excited because we get to drink scotch all day long, and it makes me just so very happy.
Which one are you most excited in?
I've done it. I've done it.
No.
Which
one are you most excited to utilize through this semester?
All of them. That's why I'm like, we'll just list all of them. Like I literally went through my entire collection and pulled every variety of scotch out that I have. So now they're all fair game.
But you don't, and I know some you haven't tried yet, but of the ones you have tried, you don't have a favorite?
Actually, I think that this Smokehead was the only one that I had not tried.
Okay.
I think I've tried all the other ones. Because
You've tried this one?
I've tried that one.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've tried all of them.
Okay.
I've tried all of them. They've all been tasted.
So now that you've tried all of them.
Oh, yeah. The Highland Park 18 is still my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Highland Park 18 is my favorite, has been my favorite for quite some time.
Yeah, that one's too peaty for me.
I love it.
I know.
And
I love that for you.
Yeah, the Highland Park is an island. It's going to have a lot of the Isla flavor characteristics to it.
Mm-hmm.
The Glenlivet 25 is probably my next on there. You just can't go wrong with it. And because I'm not a snob, like it doesn't have to be expensive for me to like it, I really think this Smokehead just catapulted itself to the number 3 spot that would have been previously inhabited by the Lagavulin.
Okay. And the Smokehead is pretty accessible, right?
I have no idea. I've never seen it before, and I've never looked for it again since.
I believe
I have
I've
no
seen
idea.
It on the shelf.
It's a badass bottle, which is why I bought it.
And the little tin that it comes in.
It's very, very, very cool.
Yes. Definitely gets you looking.
So, but I will say I have an empty bottle that I really like, and that's the Lafrogue. We finished the Blue Label that I had. It's time to go hunt this Chinese New Year's Blue Label bottle down.
That's cool. On the side of the Smokehead canister, I don't know if it's on the bottle also, but for the tasting notes,
right?
It just has kind of like a meter. So the levels that they gauge for you are peat, intensity, spice, and sweetness.
All right, what were they?
Peat.
And what's the range, or is it just a meter?
So it is like just a bar.
Okay.
And so it's either, think of it as like full, half,
like a life bar on a video game.
Yes.
Okay, so we have peat.
Yes.
What was the other one?
Intensity.
Okay.
Spice. Sweetness.
Okay, so sweetness is the lowest bar. The tiniest bar.
You want me to tell you as you go? Or you want to...
Yeah, tell me if I'm right. That way if I can...
No.
No, really? If that's not true, then I fucking give up.
Already?
Yeah, if sweetness isn't the lowest, what's the lowest?
Spice.
Really? Then intensity must be the highest.
Peat and intensity are both full bars.
Okay.
Yes, so peat and intensity are max. Sweetness is half. And spice is a quarter. Look at that.
Look, I know. I believe it. I believe. Here's what I will tell you. It is proof positive that no matter what we say to you, no matter what anybody says to you, you just have to try it for yourself.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Because we've read all kinds of reviews and
peanut butter jelly. And never, ever have I ever tasted a legitimate bourbon. And I think that was the Buffalo Trace?
I think so.
And they were like, peanut butter jelly.
The one that we just recently did, we're like, we had to have been drinking out of a different batch.
Yes. The Rowan's Creek.
Yes.
The Rowan's Creek.
Get it. It's small batch. We're going to go with, we had a completely different batch because that description is not at all even similar to what we just experienced.
At all.
None of it.
So no, I would have definitely put sweetness way low on
Lower
the
than
list.
spicy.
Much
Lower than spice.
Yeah, lower than spice. I would have put intensity and peat. And where I wasn't sure how they were going to rate it was the intensity and the spice. Like, I wasn't sure how they were going to differentiate between those two. And I would love to have a conversation with whoever did that meter.
Yeah.
To talk about, like, okay,
how do you separate?
And I think I know what I would do. I know how I would differentiate it. Remember when I told you it was sitting right behind my sternum?
Yes.
That's the intensity for me. Like, that I can feel it building its little peat fire.
So spice would be focusing on your mouth.
On my face, yeah. And then the intensity, I think, would be that chest feel.
Okay.
That makes me like,
yes.
For the single time ever in my life, if it's 12 degrees outside, I think I'd be okay.
Well, in that case, you might want to hold on to that this weekend.
What?
I don't think it's going to get quite that good, but it's dropping back down, I believe.
No, all right, shut up. I'm good. I don't, like, you're getting me back for the Scotch business. I know. It's fine. Point taken. I said I was sorry.
I'm just saying it'll be a good...
I don't know why you always say things to hurt me.
You will be so happy that this is already open and you have no reservation for holding on to it.
And I know. It is very warm and very delicious, and it makes me very happy. And I put a little bit of water in it just to kind of open it up a little bit, but I'm not thinking I want ice in it. It has this kind of fireside chat feel to it. Almost like I like iced tea and I like hot tea.
Yeah.
And I like them both for different reasons.
Different occasions, kind of?
Yeah, just a whole bunch of different aesthetics sometimes. Like, sometimes it's just no more than aesthetics.
Okay.
And that's what this feels like right now, is I don't even want it cold. Like, if it was a little warmer, I would kind of be okay. If it was heated through just a tad, I think I would like that. Like, maybe put a little warm water in it.
There you
that
go.
would be good. Which I've never done before, and now I really want to.
It's not going to be as bad now as I anticipated. There's only one night that's going to drop in the 30s.
That is one night too many.
But it's still going to be 62 that day.
I don't care.
And 65 the next day.
I don't care. It sucks. I'm just sick of I'm just sick of the cold weather. I had a good time editing the New Year's Eve episode. And I'll go ahead and just say it. I know I put it in the blurb in the show notes for that one. But for part 2, like, literally, we could have never published part 2. Like, I don't know that there was a whole lot of, I don't want to say substance, right?
Yeah.
But it really was just us hanging out. And it made it one of my favorites of all time. Like,
doing our thing.
just hanging out. And that was what I was thinking when I was going through and listening to it was, so sometimes this podcast is a pain in the ass, right? Like, I can't tell you the amount of work that goes into it. Like I spent hours today. Like, you spent hours researching it, and then the editing process, and then trying to get it all ready to go, and like scheduling and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's a pain in the ass. But it occurred to me while I was editing that particular episode how blessed I am that we have like a recorded conversation of just our closest besties just hanging out. And that's a whole lot of fun. That was a whole lot of fun. So I enjoyed that. That was a good time. My favorite is when I'm not alone in the room and I have my headphones in and something makes me laugh and then people are just looking at me like,
the fuck you laughing about?
like, tune in and find out.
Yes.
No spoilers for you, sir.
No. Gotta listen.
Gotta listen. I feel like there should be so much more we should say about Scotch, but I just don't know what those things are because I really don't want to overwhelm. And if I'm being super, super honest, like, I have just started in the past year starting to get more educated about Scotch. Like, it's one of those things I've always known that I liked.
You like the taste.
But until we started to do this podcast, I never really drank a whole lot of it because nobody else drinks it but me.
Yeah.
Right? But then we started to do this podcast thing and then became work. So I could justify like having bottles that nobody's going to drink but me. So
And knowing that they will get used.
they will. I mean, what's a lot of fun is when folks come over and they've never had a Scotch before.
We're like, which one would you like to try?
You can try any one you want. And then you kind of walk them through, and that's kind of the most important thing. Like if you think you want to talk about Scotch, if you think you want to try Scotch, it's one of those things where it's not really so much like bourbon, right? Like you can't look at the proof and go, oh, this is probably what it's going to taste something like this, or look at an age statement and a proof combined and go, oh, it's probably going to taste something like this.
Yeah.
There's a flavor profile spectrum of Scotch that is so varied, because not only do they the malt when they malt the barley, that stuff is either peated or unpeated, and what that means is because what happens when you malt barley, you take the unmalted barley and you germinate it, right? Like you make it seed. But when it seeds, there's a point where you want to kind of freeze it right there. Like you don't want it to go any further, because what happens during the germination process is there's these enzymes and sugars and the carbohydrates are doing what they do, and there's a point where you want that to stop.
Gotcha.
And so what they do,
it'll change.
It changes. Like
Okay.
it goes too far this way or not enough that way. So what they do is they toast it, they heat it, and it kind of stops the process. It kind of holds it in this stasis, so to speak. And the heat source, when you get those Islay Scotches that are super, super peaty, what they do is they take peat, which is a historically largely used fuel source in Scotland. It looks like mud. It looks like mud bricks, right? But you use that to create the fire, the heat that stops this malting process. But you can also use anything. Like you could use just regular wood that doesn't have all that peaty stuff to it, or you can just warm what. I mean, I'm sure you could use just whatever.
Yeah.
You know, throw it in a dryer. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that works. Don't
dryer.
Don't. Yeah, a little blow dryer. What are you doing, baby? I'm freezing the malted barley. I don't know. But that's where that peaty flavor comes from. But not all barley, when they malt it, is processed that way. And so then you have the different casks. Like some Scotches are aged in used bourbon barrels, some in sherry barrels. There's a whole, you know what? Margaret gives us a list. All right, here we go.
All right. Let's hear this list.
Bourbon, sherry, dry wines, sweet wines, ale, cognac, rum, rye whiskey, and something called casks of the future. I'm going to read this because I don't know what she's talking about.
Okay.
Until 2019, some casks were disallowed, including tequila casks, Calvados casks, and cider casks, under grounds that they were untraditional. A new set of guidelines issued in June 2019 explicitly allowed these casks and others, so we can all look forward to an even greater proliferation of cask finishes in the years to come. Very interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. So, we say all that to say that the flavor profile of Scotch is varied, and that's something that Margaret talks about in her book. Like if you're trying to get into Scotch, if that's kind of a thing that you kind of want to look into, it's really it's great to know these baseline things.
Yes,
this is what single malt means. This is what the different grains are. This is how the different ways you can malt barley. These are the different casks that they can be aged in, because all of those things add to create those different flavor profiles. So you'll have a Scotch like the Glenmorangie Tale of Winter that you loved.
Yes.
So I loved. I would be suspect of a person's preferences in life if they didn't like that bottle, quite frankly.
Well, and I'll tell you, like, if I didn't get more educated in my knowledge and just thought that every Scotch tasted like the first one I tried, I would never try Scotch again. But knowing that, you know, there are such variances made me more willing to try others and found that, there are some that I don't mind.
Oh, there is. We are going to have to try this Kilchoman again because I know that I've tried it because it's open, but I don't know that I paid any attention to it, and we need to because of these 8 Scotches, the Kilchoman excluded, right? Mm-hmm. Of the other 8, the proofs range from 80 to 96, and the 96 is Lagavulin 8, and so that's kind of an outlier. The majority of the Scotches, 5 of them are 86 proof.
I just saw that one.
Is 86 proof. So 5 of them are 86 proof. That Kilchoman comes in at a whopping 122. Right?
Yeah.
Which is something I didn't pay any attention to it. It was an afterthought when we tried it. I think there were some people over here that wanted to open it.
Yes.
And so we did. But I paid very little attention to it. I don't know that I've even heard of a 122 Scotch.
No.
Quite frankly.
But, okay, so wait a minute. Well, one of the rules with the Scotch was it the proof of it going into the barrel?
Yeah, but it was percent. It wasn't proof. It's just like bourbon. That 90-something percent alcohol is what it can be distilled to.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. But distillates are always going to be. Distillates are almost always going to be that. It's always that high alcohol content.
61%.
Yeah. We got to try that again. I got to pay better attention.
It's been a minute since we've had any whiskey that high.
No. Jake's is that high. The Stag Junior is that high.
I guess that we've done an episode on.
Yeah, we haven't. Because episodes on those are hard. Because,
trying to get through a recording, it'll take you 5 hours to edit 1 hour worth of recording.
Look, we're experienced women, but damn. 120 is 120. I don't care.
We don't need to do a whole episode on.
I don't care who you are. I do not care who you are. 120 is fucking 120.
Oh yeah.
So
can get you there quick
and out early.
Yes.
I'm not even that's not for drinking. That's for drinking. It reminds me of that. It was a couple of years ago when the microwave cake in a cup was all the rage.
Yes.
And somebody said, whoever realized you could make cake in a coffee cup in a microwave was going through some things. And I'm like, that's a mood. But that's
I'm trying to avoid eating a whole cake right now.
But I need one right now. Just throwing the shit in the coffee mug and put it in the microwave. Fuck Betty Crocker. Grandmothers everywhere rolling over in their graves. I raised her better than this. Men everywhere backing away slowly. But yeah, that's what the 120. That's what those super super high proof ones remind me of. Like you were just going through some things.
Yeah.
Like what is it in your life that you have to have for that to be? And what I love are the folks that are like, this is my daily drinker.
You mean a nightcap?
No. That's your,
because that's all you need. If that's your daily, then we're talking about just a nightcap.
120 every day.
You're just a little drink before bed. Yeah, you're gonna sleep good.
Yeah, but the punch to your face, you're like, I'm awake now. I don't know what y'all were, but now I'm awake.
Only for 5 more minutes.
All right, I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna finish
that's
the
what I was just
Smokehead.
getting ready to say.
I'm gonna finish the Smokehead.
Try one more.
All right, I'm afraid. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little
Afraid?
I'm not afraid. I'm
Of
lying.
what?
Not this one.
Oh, that
look,
what you're trying next?
Yeah. Look. Oh yes, absolutely. I've got to try that one next. I respect it. I don't never just open up a 120 bottle. This is 122, but I never open up like a 120 bottle without a certain amount of respect for what I'm fixing to do. I am. My hubris is not there. I ain't even making a full drink.
All right, I'll taste it with you.
Yeah, I didn't. That's all I poured was a taste.
A taste.
So I have a buzz from the smell.
I'm floored right now. No, I'm floored because I didn't get that. I don't know why, It definitely has more of a peat flavor than what I would like,
Right?
but I'm kind of surprised with how smooth it was. It definitely lingers. I don't like the peat lingering.
Yeah, that's a special occasion drink for sure. The tears hangs on the glass
Oh,
for
yeah.
hours.
Yes.
Like I'm pretty sure like it's the tears hang beautifully. So I'm sweating.
Yeah. I'm super warm. What do you
And
want?
and I'd almost issue a challenge, right, to our bourbon friends who are like overproof or bust.
Oh, I'd love to hear the review.
Go ahead, pick you up a bottle of that. All right, so I think for our celebratory Scotch, you're doing the Glenlivet 25.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do that Highland Park 18.
Yeah, that's your favorite.
It's my favorite.
And you like that better than Teachers?
Yeah, no, I like the teachers. Like, but it's. I think that if we're going to do a celebratory, I don't know how I don't do a Scotch episode and not close out the episode with my favorite in my glass. And the Highland Park 18 is definitively my favorite on my bar. The Glenlivet 25 is close. Like, I had to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Highland Park is just, and I love it's called Viking Pride.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta love that. So the Highland Park 18 is a single malt Scotch that comes from the islands. It is finished in bourbon and sherry. Not finished, it's aged in bourbon and sherry casks. That Glenlivet 25 is
also
a single malt.
malt.
It's a Speyside. And they're both very, very delicious. You can't go wrong with either bottle. Full disclosure, both of these bottles were purchased when I was feeling particularly proud of myself for different reasons.
Yes.
So both of these bottles are going to set you back between $400 and $500. So when you see that, just that's the bottle you're looking at.
What is, and I may be saying this wrong, but what is Oloroso? Do you know?
I
It says
think it's a place.
First fill Oloroso sherry casks.
Oloroso. Yeah, it's a type of sherry.
Oh, okay.
We got through a whole Scotch episode without Reba throwing something at me.
I didn't throw anything. I didn't throw up. I didn't throw anything out. I'm doing good.
You're doing amazing. I knew though that when you walked
This
in
is
here,
my third one.
3 Scotches.
3 Scotches.
I'm so proud.
It's a record.
It is a record.
You gotta, I should get some kind of award.
I love you. There you go.
Okay.
Congratulations. Would you like to thank the Academy?
Yay!
Baby, if 2022 taught you nothing, we are not getting any awards. We get no awards.
No. Though we may have clearly won them, we're not getting them awarded.
We're not getting any awards. We are completely overlooked, neglected, but having the better time
do
than
our
anybody I
fucking
know.
shit.
Yeah, having a better time than anybody I know. Cheers. Thanks for hanging out with Ape and Reba on this episode of Bitches and Bourbon.
Make sure to check out the links in the show notes, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Until next time, here's to bad bitches and good bourbon.
I mean, you have to like spicy pickle.